episode of the Business of Business podcast. I'm your host, Roy. Of course, we are the podcast that brings you a wide variety of guests that can speak to a diverse set of topics, either trying to identify something maybe our audience hasn't thought about, or at least providing them support on maybe issues that may be keeping them up at night. So today is no different. This is an awesome, timely interview. We've been waiting for a couple months to get her on. But Kelli Christina, she is a top female healthcare executive. As a woman in today's world, Kelli attributes her success to hard work, education, and determination. With 20 years of specialized medical recruiting experience and 10 years in business management, she is currently the CEO, owner, and director of recruiting for KD Staffing. She created KD Staffing on the idea that recruiting is an art. She has perfected her skills in this art through a number of managerial and leadership positions since the start of her career. She became a restaurant manager and boss at 19 years old before she started a career in recruiting. She also obtained her bachelor degree in business, hotel, restaurant management from the University of North Texas. With 30 years of career experience, her advice to younger generation of women entering the workforce is to remember the importance of education. She also advises them to be strong-willed and to never give up. She is also an international best-selling author, public speaker, CEO, and business coach, current day. Business coach, current day. She also worked part-time for the government projects for 10 years. She loves making a difference on today's world. Kelli, thank you so much for being with us, and go Eagles.
I love it.
Yeah.
I know we both graduated from the same college, didn't we, Roy?
That's right. Yeah, and we're waiting for our football team to catch up. You know, that's the sad thing about it is it's such an awesome school. I think one of the best schools in the country, but because we don't have a football team that wins, we don't get much attention. And you know, the other thing about this DFW area where we both live, that, you know, we've got SMU, TCU, the Rangers, the Cowboys, you know, we got so much sports that they kind of get drowned out. But anyway, that's the topic for another show. Maybe we can get the athletic director to come on here and see what he's got up his sleeve.
I enjoyed going to UNT, and I actually, and, you know, this will definitely show my age, but they were just rolling out the hotel restaurant business management program. I think they were just a couple years into the program, Roy.
Yeah.
So of course it was awesome in the 90s, and I graduated in 1993.
Yeah, they do. They are known for that is one of the recognized programs across the country, as well as my specialty was gerontology, which they are a leader in that field, and then I think music. But yeah, they've got so many great schools that try to do anything I can to give them a little bit of support.
That's right. We've got to do it.
That's right. Well, before we jump into recruiting and staffing and what's going on in the world today, tell us a little bit more about, you know, I know that, you know, as I read through this, that you were in the restaurant and hotel management. You went through that education track. But what really made you settle on recruiting, and how did you make those decisions?
That's an excellent, most excellent, because I am definitely a restaurant baby. And, you know, my personality is hospitality. I do tend to be a people pleaser. I love the level of service. And I have had some amazing, I think that my bosses in the 90s, they developed me at a very young age to, you know, troubleshoot operations, handle problems, handle systems. Just my business success or my career success was probably based on those bosses and what they taught me in the 90s. And so 20 years ago, and for a very small time, you know, so you decide that you're going to switch careers, and it was a big decision for me to make. But the actual way that I transitioned is there was a recruitment firm that I had used in restaurant management for my own jobs, and they had asked me 3 times. Now this would have been, I think, 1999. Did I want to try recruitment? It's 100% commission, blah, blah, blah. But I'd be working, with restaurant managers and area directors and such, and give it a try. By the third time, I think you're a little scared because commission sales, that can be a little bit scary.
Right.
But I gave it a try, and I just happened to be really excellent. You find people that just really can't do it, or they can do it all the way.
Right.
So that is actually how I started recruitment, is in the restaurant industry. And then of course I transitioned to the medical industry. And it was a great challenge. I didn't, I had to learn to be typing and computers, and now you're a corporate job and you've got to learn all the medical terminology.
Yeah.
And so I've had two careers that I absolutely, I love them both.
Yeah.
I always say now, current day, if I'm not working in a restaurant, I'm spending money in the restaurant.
Right.
So
that's an awesome story. And I really like the part that you talked about your bosses when you were young really shaped you and gave you that success, because I was lucky in the same respect. I mean, my parents were both awesome and gave me a lot of life lessons, but at some point I moved out and moved, about an hour away, and my first corporate job, and I was lucky to be surrounded by, not only were they awesome people, but willing to give. And I really like that aspect about, once we get good at our career or our job or whatever we're doing, we really need to give back by helping others. Because I've seen people take the approach of, well, I had to learn the hard way, they can too, and I just don't really subscribe to that.
I don't either, and I'm huge, and I know, and I really thank you for reading off my formal biography.
Yep.
And I do, speaking of UNT and what did I do in college and what do I believe in, and I still current day sell Recruitment as an Art, which is a training program.
Okay.
But I started training. I actually wrote training manuals in college.
Oh, wow.
And I'm a huge believer. It doesn't matter what industry that you're in. You've got, if you want your people to be successful, then you have to train them to be successful. You have to set them up for success.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they're going to fail.
Yeah.
So part of that is your training manuals, your systems, your processes, and teaching, your staff the right methods, for success.
Yeah. No, that's important. And, two things that I see a lot, because I do some employee retention work, and a couple things that I see that really trouble me, I guess, is that now corporate recruiters, a lot of corporate recruiters call recruiting, I posted an ad on Indeed somewhere, and then they wonder why they get 2,000 people that aren't qualified for their job. And so that's one thing is, sometimes you have to get out from behind the desk to speak to educate, students in school, other groups, find a way to personalize it where you can actually meet people and learn more about them. And then the second part is the onboarding. I feel like that we've sacrificed in the digital age, because I know people that have, gone into their first day at a company, and it's like, here's your desk, and we're going to get you a computer in a few minutes, and then there you go. Instead of, like in my time in the old days, there'd actually be somebody from HR that came out, sat down with you, went over, all the important stuff to get that out of the way, but, made you feel comfortable, not just left you on an island with a link on a computer.
Oh, I agree. And, and we do have a small team, but we office from home. Mm-hmm. And, but my philosophy behind working from home, well, number one, not everybody, a lot of people want to work from home, but can they actually do the job? That is a big challenge,
right.
Because you're either self-disciplined to do the job or you're not. Yeah. So that's a challenge. There are a lot of positive with the office environment and the energy and the synergy, and you can kind of. But my point is that for me to have staff at home, I've got to have organized systems in place, and we're still going to take that time to train and develop, because you can't just hang an employee out there and think that they know the job, because they don't.
Yeah. Even if they came from a different discipline, even if they're recruiting in some other industry, there's still specific things that, you can't just say, hey, you're a recruiter, so here's your chair, get on the phone and get going. It's, we have to take, and I say that even for like bookkeepers or what other kind of professional staff is, maybe they had the same basic job title somewhere else, but everybody has a little bit different system and procedure that we really have to educate them on.
Yes, and at the end of the day, all the years of being boss, I will still pick, and actually, I do pull some of my staff out of the restaurant industry,
Yeah.
because I feel they're smart. They have a very big personality. They know how to handle people.
Yeah.
But the point is that when I'm hiring, I'll pick the young, energetic, over the top, wanting to do a good job employee that I need to grow and develop, over the seasoned, lazy, doesn't want to learn new techniques type
Right.
of employee.
Right. Yeah, it's funny you mention that because that's what I used to do some work in the senior living field. And of course, it was always hard attracting talent. But that was one hint that I gave to all of my clients were when you're out eating a meal and you have good service in a restaurant, that is the young man or young lady that you need to say, hey, have you ever thought about being in this field? Because, I don't know, when you have good service in a restaurant, it really makes a difference in your experience. In most jobs, that's what we're looking for. We could teach you the skills. We need that attitude and to make our customers feel like we're having a good experience. So, yeah, it's a great place to draw from.
Yes, it is. And, in the matter of talking about recruitment and the job and everything, one of the first things that I talk about is, when you've got somebody on the phone, you've got to ask open-ended questions because you've got to remember something. You have a relationship on the other side of the phone.
Right.
And, you ask a few questions to engage. Don't be so, because I think new recruiters that are so quick to punch a cell, that they forget that they want to engage the other person and that, there's information shared, which means they'll get a lot of hangouts if they don't, or hangups if they don't learn that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's funny you mentioned that. We were talking the other day with somebody about scripts and about how you need to learn the job good enough to get the information across, but we have to really position it as a conversation because I've heard this, hello, my name is Roy. I'm with XYZ. I'm calling you about your resume that you sent. And, it's like, learn it enough that you can have a conversation, but then also, too, it's like in sales, I've heard recordings of people that, like, they blow through stop signs, like, if you call somebody and they're like, yeah, I'll take that job. It's like, okay, you're done selling. Quit telling them about let me just tell you one more thing about this job. It's like we have to take these cues from the people that we're talking with.
I end up, when we're in communications and before our clients are ever going to get our candidates, which are our medical professionals, my team is going to be with that individual at least 2 to 3 calls. And then, of course, I'm nicknamed the information queen, because I'm the type that, if we're going to talk about a job and we're going to talk about a move in a community, that I need to know all the job logistics. I need to know the healthcare. I need to know a healthcare system. I need to know the benefits. I need the city. I need the schools. I need the housing. I need all of the things that these individuals are looking at for an educated decision.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No. I was just saying, yeah, that's right. You have to be a good listener in sales and in recruiting as well, I'm sure.
Oh, yes, you do. And, if you're, enough years and enough strength into the job, you will weed out the people just on, new recruitment. They don't think about, like I know after 20 years, if a spouse or a boyfriend, girlfriend, or family isn't going to move to that area, then you might as well just stop the tracks right there. Okay. Because you're not going anywhere. Yeah. You can try, you can talk them into it, but they're going to get cold feet.
Yeah.
So if you're very good at listening to, whoever you're working with on their exact needs and everything, then you'll key in on whether it's a good fit or a bad fit earlier in the process, and you waste less time.
Yeah. No, and I think that's a good thing for all sales to remember is sometimes people just aren't a good fit for that position, and we have to be strong enough to say, you know what, after all the information that I've heard, this opportunity probably just isn't for you, and agree to part ways instead of, because I've found some people will go through the process and go through 3 or 4 calls and get down to the end, and then they just say, okay, rejected, and they could have really actually let them go maybe 2, 3 calls earlier.
Yes, yes. And if I said I've never had years of career where you have somebody that's wasting your time, or you're pushing or you're pulling or whatever,
Right.
and I do think it's later in your career that you learn when to let them loose.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes they'll be even surprised at how laid back you can be about just not a good decision.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I mean, I've actually, sometimes it can work in the in the reverse, that I've had customers that I've said, yeah, I really don't think this is going to be for you, and then they're like, huh? Well, yeah, it is for me. Then they try to start selling me on why it is good for them. So yeah, it doesn't work all the time, but I think it's just that honest feedback that we have to give, and communication. I think in your business, it's a little different, because you have to have a lot of close communication with a lot of people for one position, until you start narrowing down the field. But I think that communication between your applicants and the company that you're sourcing for, you just have to really be on top of your communication game to pull that off.
I agree about 150% on that one.
Yeah.
Yes. And, there's a little bit of groundwork that we'll ask of the people that are interviewing for jobs to do up front. And we'll patiently wait,
Right.
until that groundwork is done. And for me, it's almost like a testing, type situation, because for the serious minded that are really interested in their job, they're gonna jump all over and get it done.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know.
So this is an interesting time, I'm sure, to be in recruiting. We're taping this in July, the end of July 2021, but we're coming out of COVID. Businesses are opening up. I think there's still some areas that may have the extended level of unemployment benefits in some places. But then we've also got a group of, maybe individuals that have underlying issues that are like, I'm just not taking a chance and going back into the workforce. That's created a little bit of a shortage in some places. But what are some things that you're seeing with your customers?
Oh, we could talk the next hour. No, I think we were just kind of discussing this before we went here. What I've noticed with business is just, a small stack up this year of small business problems, but it just kind of stacks up problems maybe you haven't seen with your systems, your companies, or anything in 5 years, and then they've surfaced. So for me, as a business owner, I've had to learn to practice my patience a little bit.
Yeah.
Stay all over, and then, oh, by the way, you adjust, come up with some new plans.
Yeah.
Medical professionals are coming full speed into full-time jobs again, permanent positions. That's what we staff.
Yeah.
The housing market is a new challenge. And you know what? And I was thinking about this the other day, Roy. I haven't had to talk medical professionals through housing situations or housing shortages since 2008.
Yeah.
And that was a year of recession. And so if you've got enough years of recruitment, you do come up with some, housing issues or other issues in the moving and transitioning process. And really, it's just adjusting to the problems and then talking people through what we can do, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So right now, think I mentioned, Texas has definitely, we're in Texas.
Yeah.
Housing's taking longer, whether you're renting or you're buying. Well, I just learned 2 weeks ago, so is Tennessee. That's the home of another one of my clients. And, it's an issue we're going to have to work through. So, when you're talking about transitioning and moving people, they got to live somewhere,
Right, exactly. Yeah, and
right?
that's a little bit different of a yours is because there may be that move involved, but I, I guess the other part of this are how are employers taking this, a change in the way things are done. Like, because a lot of times, especially, they wait till this position is empty, and sometimes these things can be very short fused, like they need somebody yesterday. But it's unfortunate that in this environment, sometimes things don't move that fast. So, are employers kind of adjusting their expectations about how the recruiting process is and getting people in the seat?
Well, like, and I'm sure this is the kind of stuff that keeps company owners up at night. You
Yeah,
know what I
yeah,
mean? Because sometimes when you're working slower, it's more stressful than when you're fast and you're moving full speed.
right,
And, as a company owner, I'm not programmed to give up, or say, okay, well, this is failing, so we'll just let it fail.
right,
I always adjust. I'm one of those, like some people come up with 1 to 2 plans. I'll have 6,
right,
Do all the plans work? No, but you got to think outside the box,
yeah,
I'm the type business leader that we're not going to accept defeat. We're going to keep going.
yeah,
In the matter of my clients and the employers are the hospitals. Of course, they have been aware
yeah, yeah,
of what kind of hiccups we've got because, I work with human resources and the challenges that I've got, they've got.
yeah,
But are they going to let us lie low and not perform? No.
yeah,
But I think that there's probably a little bit more push, especially when we're talking about like the housing market or whatever.
right, right,
But you don't ever want to lose your clients over excuses either,
yeah,
so you keep pushing.
yeah,
And for my company, we've got a lot of long-term clients, so they know how strong we perform,
yeah,
and I'm also in the medical industry, and it does not shut down
yeah,
during any types of national um you know disasters.
right.
It's a more stressful process when we are having problems in this country, pulling medical professionals through. But, we handle the stress and we keep moving forward.
Yeah. So have you seen any fluctuation? Well, in number one, in I guess job postings versus applicants or people interested in jobs that y'all have. Have you seen either one of those fluctuate?
That is an amazing question. I'm glad that you asked that. Yes, we've had problems, and I'm sure if you talk to enough on staffing, they'll probably share these opinions. Our national job boards are not performing as strong as normal.
No.
And this has been probably a problem that started around lockdown,
Yeah.
and so for me, of course, as the company owner, I've scraped up a few, let's try digital marketing. Let's try this path. Let's try this path.
Yeah.
Because you are right. Yes. We've seen the Indeed, Zips, Career Builders. We've seen all of them go through the slowdown. It doesn't mean they're not performing. They're just not performing as strong.
Yeah.
And so go ahead.
No.
For me,
Oh, go ahead.
we
You're fine.
use 3 to 5 sources.
Okay. Wow.
So I'm going to try to keep the engines running
Yeah.
wherever we can.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a great question.
Yeah, and I think probably also you can confirm this as well as that. I mean, were in a little bit of a tight spot just because people aren't graduating, becoming doctors and nurses. There was kind of a lull in people choosing those paths, and then not only on top of that, I guess we've had so many healthcare workers that have been going to the hot spots and working remote that some of them are probably coming home and wanting to take a deep breath before they, take that next step.
Yes. And, we're definitely not at complete full speed for our company. But I would definitely say that we're coming out of it,
Yeah.
For the permanent staffing on the medical side last year, we were challenged just because, if you're looking at a job for me that's, $30 or $40 and you can take a COVID contract for over 100,
Right.
You're going COVID. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
And by the way, that's what our medical professionals do. That's how they respond. They respond to the emergency, let's go during hard, challenging times. But they are starting to come off. I've heard a lot of stories on those COVID contracts, and they are getting ready to, okay, let's stabilize a little bit and get
Yeah.
that permanent job back.
Yeah. So what are some things that you would some advice that you would give to employers reaching out to recruiters like yourself? What are some things that they need to do to not only help themselves but to help you perform better?
Ooh, that's it. Can you rephrase that for me?
Yeah. Just like
You got me on a tough
yeah,
question.
no, just some, some tips or tricks like, I'm sure that they need to make sure they've got their, their start dates all lined up, the salary ranges, the job descriptions, are up to date for y'all. Just those kind of things like that. What makes it easier if I was to call you tomorrow and say, I need you to look for this person for me. What are some things that you would ask for that I probably need to have on hand to get started?
Okay, that I
Yeah,
understand that
okay.
completely.
Yeah,
Here we
yeah,
go.
okay, yeah.
So, I do ask from my clients a little bit more information up front. Okay, so I have my company has like question and answer forms,
Okay.
that we give new clients, in the matter of, we do a lot of nursing departments, all nursing departments, managers, directors, we do some tech roles and stuff. But for me, and for our pre-screening process with our candidates, and we want to give them more information, that I typically send a form out with just very simple, what are your benefits and what's the shift and the range on the job and shift differentials. And so if we get all the logistics of the job and as much of the hospital or the healthcare system that we can get up front,
Yeah.
because my job is not to send a hiring manager 15 sloppy resumes on people that are semi-interested.
Right.
My job is to deliver the right information. And from a scale of 1 to 10, our medical professionals need to be at least an 8 on interest.
Yeah.
And so for that to happen, then we've got to give them more information up front. And
Yeah.
it's a very valuable system. Sure, it might take a little bit of time, 30 minutes or an hour, come up with this information. But then we are representing, our clients in the right way.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely will make it easier on them in the long run, getting the right
Yes.
person instead of getting, like you said, 12 marginal people. Maybe you can get them 3 or 4, really good fits. So let's turn that on the flip side and say, okay, I'm a nurse professional that I'm going to be looking at one of your job openings or, want to talk to you about it. What are some things that I need to have in order, to make that easier and faster? And one place I'm going to definitely lead to on this is the I think is it ATI, the applicant tracking. I don't know if y'all use one, but like kind of tweaking people's resumes to come through that.
So we do not use that system.
Okay.
But I will, and my team, we do like the free resume service.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And that's pretty important, by the way. So,
Yeah.
What my medical professionals, typically, obviously I need the resume, but I'm going to tweak it now. If myself, my team, if we're going to tweak anything, of course, we always deliver that information back.
Right.
But does the resume present itself the way it does?
Right.
Because sometimes we'll have the travel nurses out there, and so they show all these short-term jobs
Right.
and everything. Well, the hiring managers are typically going to look at that resume about a minute or two,
Yeah.
and they're done.
Yeah.
So they need to know, if you're at a travel company, okay, well, these are not 5 short jobs. This is one travel company for this
Yeah.
many years.
Yeah.
So we do that. But I also I do the screening guide forms with medical professionals, and it just asks the basics. What kind of money are you looking for? Have you done the research in this area? Do you have anything on your background? Do you have anything on your license? What department are you looking for? Well, what shift are you looking for? So we do a little bit of groundwork so that nobody's wasting their time right up front.
Yeah. So how do you address gaps in in a resume, my opinion has always been to be honest and specifically state what it is. And but what is how do you recommend applicants handle those?
It depends. Is going to be my answer.
Okay.
When we're working with the clients, like let's use this as an example. If you've been off work a year or 2 years or whatever, then you're probably not going to be able to go through my company, okay? Because they're going to want to know, but sometimes somebody's doing something, or maybe they had an injured and they're staying home or whatever, but there is some company, or sometimes it's a matter of what are they doing and is it on paper and
Okay.
does it read the right way?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's important. And you talked a little bit about service links, because that, again, talking to somebody like myself, where, my generation, we got out of school, went to work somewhere for 30 years. And so we've definitely transitioned away from that. But, what is a good link? Because, when I look at resumes, I usually like to see 3 to 5 years in a position, or if they're in a company, if it's a growth, where they're obviously working themselves up, that's another consideration. But I'm like scary when I see resumes that come across and there's 5 or 6 entries and they're 8 months, 9 months, 12 months, 1.1 year. Those are a little frightening for me. Is that just me stuck in the olden days?
No, no, it's not. And I look at tenure too. And I wish I could say that, as a team, we can just accept everybody to
Right.
interview for a process,
Right.
and but we can't. We can't.
Right.
It's kind of like, knowing what kind of backgrounds we can work with,
Right.
a few infractions or one infraction, or, my human resources that I've worked with have trained me on what we can look at and what we can't.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to argue.
Yeah.
I'm not here to argue with any hiring manager. They are the decision maker.
Right.
So stability, I don't think that that's old school. I think that, it's common sense,
Yeah.
I still work with the whole 2 year note, or that's how I was trained. You're always looking for those 2 to 3 years,
Yeah.
not saying you can't have a job for 1 year, but if it's 1 year, 1 year, 1 year, 1 year, and
Yeah.
it's not travel, and these are permanent jobs, then to me, that's a red flag.
Yeah, I think people need to be aware of the cost in order to turn over an employee. And I don't, we, even at the lowest of levels, we usually put somewhere between $3,500 to $5,000. And when you start getting into medical professionals, I'm sure that price goes up with the vacant positions, the time the company spends, with your cost and all of that. I'm sure it could reach $7,500 very easy. But I think a lot of people don't take that into consideration. That's one reason why we don't look at you as hard, because if I feel like you're going to turn over in 9 months or a year, that's another $7,500 that I'm going to have to shell out to replace you.
Right. We have a guarantee on our medical professionals. So, I do have to be tough on the front end.
Yeah.
But then also you have to be reasonable too,
Right.
because we are selling people,
Yeah.
and selling people is not perfect.
Right.
And, things happen. So there is another thing, job coaching and
Yeah.
training people how to interview well.
Right.
Some people, they haven't interviewed in a very long time. They just need a little bit of a polish.
Yeah.
Or we've got the perfectionists of the world, let's say, and this is where you got to come in and you got to do some job coaching, because no, we don't want to ever lie to anybody. That's be honest. But, how do you present yourself? If you've got somebody that's got 15 years of solid, wonderful experience, yet they're a perfectionist and they took a job and for 3 months they hate it.
Yeah.
Well, when you're going on that interview, you want to focus on the 15 years
Right.
and to the employer on what you bring to the table and how much you enjoy your job.
Right.
And the 3 months job that sometimes they'll cry about, we want to leave that alone.
Yeah.
and focus on what do you bring for the employer.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
Don't beat yourself up, because if enough years of career, all of us have had the 3 months or the 6 months job.
yeah.
And
Oh, I'm
go
sorry. Go
ahead.
ahead. No, you're fine. Go ahead.
No, if you focus on the negativity in an interview, then you're good. That's what you're going to get. You're
Yeah.
going to get a negative turn down.
Yeah, and I was just going to say that kind of leads into not that 3 month position. Don't bash it and how bad they were. I think you can present any differences or problems that may have been there more in a positive light. Like, it just wasn't a good fit for me. It took me a while to really get into it and figure it out, but it's just not a good fit. And, the other thing I think is good to say is that I want them to be able to have an employee that's going to be happy and, come in and give them their all. And I just couldn't be that person at this point.
I agree.
Yeah. So,
and then, the other thing is when you're job coaching and you're, training people on interviews is, for a percentage of people and their jobs fall apart, sometimes it was personal things from years ago, or it was health problems, or it was family, or, and so you have to, first forgive yourself, let it go, don't talk about the past. And, present yourself on a positive note. What do you bring to the table?
Right.
And, but I find that with people often.
Yeah. So you mentioned, different lengths of time. How far back do you recommend that people go? Because, I know there's some theories out there that if you put, 35 or 40 years worth of information, it doesn't take long for somebody to do some simple math and figure out that you're 60 years old. And unfortunately, even though it's against the law, there's still age discrimination out there. Number one, they think you may not have long to work. You may be, I don't know, a lot of things that go around. You may cost more money. And so I've heard some people say, like, maybe you can go back 20 years and then just cut it off after that, that's really all that employers are looking for.
So, excellent question, because I obviously I'm 51 myself, and so I tend to attract the the more seasoned, well-seasoned, and older medical professionals. Just probably, I don't know, something about the age, but I would say 20 to 25 years. And I think I've even let somebody get away with 30 plus. But I remind them, because you're right, it is against the law, but people do start looking at age or whatever. Remind them we're not lying to anybody. We're just not expressing.
Yeah, right.
know,
Yeah.
You've got the years, because honestly, with our nurses and medical professionals, typically you're going to top out on the pay scale anyway.
Yeah.
At 25 years.
Yeah.
You're topped out.
Yeah. All right. Well, great. Well, any other things, points or advice that you want to leave our audience with before we wrap up?
No, I absolutely love all your questions.
Well, thanks.
Well, yeah, you really drilled my brain today on the recruitment side and the business side. And just thank you so much, Roy, for your time today.
Yeah, I thank you for making time for us, and a lot of great answers, a lot of great things for our employers and employees to think about, as things start opening back up and, trying to get back out there again. A couple questions before we let you go. Number one, what is a tool or a habit that you use in your daily life that you feel adds a lot of value? And it could be professional or personal, either one.
I would definitely say it's my life program is my motivational tool. And what I mean by that is that I have a life coach, and we have we positive attitude, gratitude. It's generally a life program, but I found by, working this program, I don't know, 15 years now, and having a life coach, that I'm able to coach other people through more job and life problems, which is what we're doing. And so that's a huge success when you're talking about working with people and relationships.
Yeah. No, that's
Whether
awesome.
you're talking life or business.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was just say that's a good thing, especially in your environment. You have to be able to handle people on both sides of this equation. You got the employers and the employees. And, the other thing about life coaching, it's like some of our top athletes, not only do they have a coach for the team, but most of them all have their own personal coaches as well. And so that, it's somebody that can be there to help ride us when we get off track or when we're having a bad day, remind us why we do this. So that's an important part. Well, thank you for that. Before we let you go, also tell us who do you like, and of course, hospitals and medical professionals, but basically, who do you like to work with? How can you help them? And then how could people reach out and get a hold of you?
Well, I always have to remind people, KD Staffing, we're nursing. We're primarily nursing managers, nursing directors, techs on jobs. Because when you think of recruiters, you think of every job in the country. Exactly. And, we're very specialized. I also, I am known to do some government and service work out there. Work with, I share a lot of ideas with other company owners, and most recently been working with some new authors out there that are needing advice. Okay. Although I'm still learning the process myself, I'm always able to help.
Okay,
go ahead.
No, what's y'all's website at KD Staffing?
So it's www.kdasindogstaffing.org.
Okay, great. And y'all work pretty much all across the U.S.?
We do. We absolutely do. In 20 years with the medical industry, and I always say our medical professionals, I label them, they're the caretakers of the world, but someone has to caretake them in the job and the moving process. And honestly, I've recruited 49 out of 50 countries. Wow. In 20 years. Yeah. Obviously, I don't have 50. I didn't say countries, I said states. Yeah. Sorry about that. No, you got my message, right?
Yeah, I knew.
So you work with 50 countries. Yeah. No, that's states. Yeah. Anyway, the only state that I haven't had a client is Alaska. Wow. But I sure have pulled some Alaska nurses out of the state, and I bet they want warmer weather.
Exactly. Yeah, looking for a beach, warm beach.
And they're very, when they're ready to leave that cold weather for a warm weather state, they'll be flying. They got their whole travel package ready to go. Just get them there,
Well, Kelli, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to be with us. A lot of great information. If you are in the healthcare business, reach out to Kelli. If you're a nurse in the nursing space looking for a job, reach out and see how she can help you put together with, put a good employer together with a good employee. All right. Well, thanks again. That's going to do it for go ahead.
I was going to say goodbye, Roy, and thank you so much.
You bet.
Have a great week, okay?
Thank you. You as well. Bye.
Bye.
That's going to do it for another episode of the Business of Business podcast. Of course, I'm your host, Roy. You can find us on all the major podcast platforms, iTunes, Stitcher, Google, Spotify. And if we're not on one that you listen to, please reach out. I'd be glad to get it added. We're on all the major social media networks, typically tend to hang out on Instagram more than others. So reach out. Be happy to engage with you there. And a video of this interview will go up when the episode goes live. You can find that on our YouTube channel. So until next time, take care of yourself and take care of your business.